Hi, everybody. Today I thought I wanted to go back to my roots in covering a couple of horror games, well, covering one horror game in the theme of the season. And despite the fact that I know I'm slightly late on the Halloween, it's fine, it's fine, it can still fit in there. And going back to my roots in honor of that, I wanted to cover a game that has meant a lot to me over the last year and that I'm thinking about often, that I did cover here on this channel, and that is Milk inside of a bag of milk, inside of a bag of milk, and its sequel, Milk outside of a bag of milk, outside of a bag of milk. And while I'm not going to recover those games, I have found a game that is very similar to it that recently released. It doesn't have a lot of Steam players or reviews or anything like that. Matter of fact, I couldn't even find a reference to this game on the internet, despite the fact that I tried. The only place I could find any mention of it is on its own Steam page. No trailers, no nothing. So I thought this was an interesting game to play, and I wasn't wrong. So in this video, we'll be covering Surrogate. Let's get right into it. So, what is Surrogate? Surrogate is a game that feels like it's heavily influenced by bag of milk inside of a bag of milk inside of a bag of milk if that game had a child with some of H.R. Geiger's work. What I mean to say is that the game is set in the far future. It uses art style kind of similar in essence to the stuff that we see in Bag of Milk, outside of Bag of Milk, outside of Bag of Milk, infused with human machinery and really grotesque imagery and in general just a really weird world. The game has themes of self-criticism, late-stage capitalism, and of course, mental illness. It's a game that I honestly love, and I will be talking about why I think it's super fucking good. And in this game, and in this sort of review, I won't be spoiling any of the game or talking about the story, at least as much as I can avoid it, because here's the thing. Despite the fact that this review analysis, whatever you want to call it, is something that exists on the platform, I don't want to take away all reason to play this. This is a visual novel. It doesn't cost more than €3 when it's not on sale. Currently it is on sale as I'm recording this for €179. I think it's well worth a buy, despite the fact that it's not super long. It's only about 3 hours. And when I say 3 hours, I mean 3 hours in a 100% you read through everything every time run, where you have gotten all achievements and Steam and stuff. So please go and buy it just before you watch this. If you don't want to and you don't care about spoilers or anything, then you can continue to watch it. But I would say, play it first and, then come back. But if you, want to just see what it's all about first, that's also okay. Now, Surrogate is relatively unknown, and I actually found that to be one of the more fun things when I was looking out and reading stuff about it, is that there was nothing to read. Normally I like to read or watch other reviewers' opinions and stuff on a game before I form my own, to see if there's anything I've missed, anything I disagree with or agree with, or anything like that, right? And in this case, there was nothing. There's actually not a mention of this game that I've been able to find when I was looking it up outside of its Steam page. There's no Twitter, no YouTube, no trailers, no nothing. And that made it for a lot more interesting game. So all of what you're going to be seeing is my interpretation of how this game is meant to be looked at. It's also going to be just in general my feel for the game. So let's just delve into the gameplay, I guess. Now, when it comes to this game's world, it's super interesting, partially because the game doesn't talk too much about it itself, but it's a lot of things we can derive from the world itself. And whether or not that is completely true, we don't know, because the only perspective we get is through the eyes of the main character, who is definitely flawed and might not be the most trustworthy storyteller or reteller eyes. And that's actually a concept that's often used in a lot of stories where the main character might not be directly transcribing and talking about the things that are happening, rather they are giving their perspective of something. And this game does that a lot, I think. Partially because the entire world apparently seems super bleak. There's nothing. The inhabitants look like these monsters often. And quite frankly, there are some really, really interesting mysteries that turn out to just be very ordinary. There is also what I consider much, much more interesting, and that is the war on other planets that are going on. Because in this game, after watching a news podcast, you can find out that we are actually spacefaring now, and that we did make it out. And while everything is not okay, there is a conspiracy theory where, like, apparently big companies are using like actual blood of the people that they're like slaughtering on other planets to sort of make this energy drink that enhances everything that the main character that you're playing as completely buys into. And there's a lot of those things. You'll be very focused on one conspiracy theory that I don't want to spoil in the game, nor do I want to spoil its conclusion, because I think it's actually fairly fun to uncover that one for yourself. Now, like a lot of other games, this game also covers a lot of themes through its main character, who is flawed. Like I mentioned before when I talked about how she isn't maybe the most reliable narrator ever, she suffers from multiple things such as anxiety and heavy self-criticism. You see, throughout Surrogate, you'll be helping the main character, Frances or Blue Girl, depending on where you're reading on the Steam page, make a dress and go to work. She's essentially trying to fulfill her dreams while working a dead-end job, not making enough money to have a proper house, a life, and as such, she ends up living with her grandma. And in this character, she, according to the Steam page, suffers from anxiety and, well, self-criticism. And while you can't really say you suffer from self-criticism yet, she is extremely hard on herself throughout a lot of the game. And in the game, you'll be helping her deal with that. And I think the game actually covers it in a relatively good manner. I myself, and that's something that I am fairly open about, I suffer from anxiety myself, like a lot of other people do. And for me, it comes in periods, but this is not about me. In this game, you're very clearly dealing with somebody who suffers from that. She, for that reason, might be slightly more relatable to me than she might be to somebody else. But I have found that she often is relatable, especially if you also do something creative with your time. If that's making videos on the internet like me, I think you'll also be able to relate to her, just like if you're making a dress like she is. There is this part of the game where she's like looking at the dress and the voice in her mind is like telling her that it's actually ugly and nobody will like it if she posts it online, and like nobody cares and all of this stuff. And honestly, it's one of the most relatable things ever, in my opinion. It's one of those things where if you make stuff, no matter what it is almost, I think you've had those exact same thoughts at some point. And I really, really like the way that they cover it in Surrogate. In addition, Surrogate obviously has the conspiracy angle that we need to sort of talk about when it comes to the main character. She seems to practically believe all of them, like all of the conspiracy nut type of things. And one of the ones that she does believe is the entire using the blood of the people that have been slain in war to make an energy drink that the government wants everybody to get hooked on or something like that. But there are also another one. There's another really major one that you are actually following throughout the entirety of the game that I don't want to spoil, and that the game really ends up covering a lot about. So without spoiling the stories, I am gonna give you the general idea that one, at least that I believe, is the true ending of the game. You can hang me up if it isn't, that's okay. But like, I believe the game's true ending and true theme that comes out is that the world is, yes, uncaring, it's empty, and you can try to search for meaning, but it won't really matter. You will not find meaning in life through just searching and looking for it yourself. But the moment that you lay back, that you appreciate the things that you have, the things that you can do, meaning will sort of automatically come. It's something that I actually believe is really healthy, well, way to look at life. It's also something that I think I personally have been following for a while, where you, instead of worrying about all the things that you can't do, look forward to the things that you can, because there are a lot of things we can do. If you're watching this video as an example, it means you have access to the internet, and it means that you, if you wanted to, could start creating today, make stuff and do stuff. And I think the idea of it is super beautiful, and I think the game portrays it, especially in that one ending, really, really well. Now, I've talked a lot of good things about this game because I believe it's really good. However, that's not to say that there isn't any issues. For me, one of the major issues that I feel like there is in Surrogate is the music. Now, the music is by no means bad nor unfitting. I actually think, despite it being very monochrome, if that makes sense, it's very fitting. The soundscape fits the environment, is what I'm trying to say. The main issue here is how it loops, because it fully cuts out. There isn't any fade and then a small beginning again. No, it's just full cut and then restart. That is super jarring, in my opinion. And it's very, very, very weird to listen to, especially when you're used to not that. Now, obviously, this is probably not intentional. I wouldn't assume so. And this probably can be fixed. I'd say it's probably the single biggest issue with Surrogate. And if you are sensitive to that type of stuff like music and audio, then maybe, just maybe, if it really annoys you to the point where 30 minutes with it would be enough for you to go insane, then yeah, obviously don't pick it up. But that's really not the case, in my opinion. It is a big enough deal to mention, but just be ready for that. That being said, overall, I think Surrogate is a great deal for a very low price, despite the fact that it isn't outwardly horrific or anything like that. It's not a game you're going to sit there and just be scared. It leans more in towards being tense, towards its themes being scary in the way that they present something very real in a very abstract way. And it's closer to probably surrealist horror, more so than something like Amnesia that is just gonna be scary for the sake of being scary. And personally, to me, that's a big strength. I am a huge fan of surrealist horror, where things aren't outwardly scary. You can see how the world operates without you in it. The world here could exist, right? But the things that are in them are super surreal and kind of creepy and eerie. I think that's what really drives me into a world like this as much as it does. It was the same thing for the Milk franchise back then. And it's the same thing here with Surrogate. And I think that's a really good strength of the game that we often lack in horror. And it's also why I don't mind giving it a recommendation. I mean, and again, it's cheap. It's really cheap on Steam. And if you're interested in it, I do recommend that you go and pick it up, especially here in the spooky season. As I said, as of recording this, there is a sale going on, but that might obviously be over by the time that this video is out. That being said, if you still think it's worth the full asking price of €3, you will get your game worth of that. However, like I said, it's 30 maybe minutes in a full playthrough. If you're just playing through it once, that's that. If you want to see all 7 endings, which I do recommend you do because they don't require a lot to unlock, so there's a lot of work behind that. It is 7 different endings, and it's not entire 7 entire playthroughs. You can save and just pick a different ending at the choice. You'll know when that happens once you've played through once or twice. And then you'll end up with a playtime of around 3.3 hours like me. I think it's great. I think it's fun is the wrong word. I think it's super interesting. I think it's a world that I hope to see more of. I hope to see the developer create more games in the future, because as far as I can see, Surrogate is currently their only work. That being said, I hope you all had a happy Halloween. And I just want to say thank you for the support on the Lies of P video. I am hoping but not entirely sure to have the next video done same time next week. But I am hoping to have it done with Lords of the Fallen, where I'll be slightly less positive than I've been the last couple of videos. But again, I'm not sure if I'll be done or if I'll still be going hard at it by the time we get to next Monday. I will probably just see what happens, and we'll see what I end up putting out. But yeah, I don't have a lot of plans. I hope you all had a wonderful Halloween and a good October. And I will catch you in November. And I hope we can make some more interesting stuff. And like I said, thank you for all the support. I hope you all have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, depending on where you're from. And I'll catch you all later. Bye.